truth is it working? We were thinking of canceling this event because of, unfortunately, our community got a little hit this morning, a big hit. Hashem should watch us all. But then we said it's not an event for entertainment, it's an event to help our children in the future. So we decided to still give it in memory and for the Hizuk and to bring Mashiach closer, because really we're at the end and we need Mashiach very desperately. If we can, we're just going to say a quick panic of Tehillim to give the family Hizuk, to give our community Hizuk, and to bring the Mashiach and bring this exile to an end very quickly. So I'll say it and you can repeat after me. Shilama lo tesai ma'eleh alim me'ayin yavo ezri ezri me'im atomai v'eshamayim ha'aretz Aitem amodak l'chayim shorecha ineva yavo yishai Shomer Yisrael Adonai shomerecha v'chatzelecha yad minecha yom ha'mashem v'shoyakecha v'yarech balayla Adonai shmocha b'kol ha'yishmor nafshecha Adonai shmor tzecha uvoyecha me'ata ve'ad olam. Everyone being here together will help us get through all our troubles in life, and we'll only see good things for everyone. Amen. A friend of mine, his name is Charlie Arari, and you heard of him. He says over a story when he was in college basketball. He was at the end of this, the year. They were playing greatest team. They were going and going and going till the final games of the championship. It was the last game, and there's about 30 seconds left. The coach calls the team over for a timeout to make a plan at the last second to try to win this game of the championship. He tells everyone what they're supposed to do, and he says, "You, Charlie, we're going to pass you the ball, and you're going to take the shot at the last moment. You're going to get it in, and we're going to win the game for the team." And he says, "Great." They're all saying, "This is the plan. We're going to win the game." Great. They're playing. Finally, the plan has to go into manifesting itself, and they're there. Charlie's standing there. The coach says, "Okay, go pass it to him." They pass the ball to him, and he's supposed to take the shot. But he got nervous, and he says, "I'm not taking the shot," in his mind. He passed it to his friend, who was caught off guard. His friend didn't know what to do. He just took the shot. He wasn't ready for it, so he missed it. The game was lost for the team. They go into the locker room. They all say, we had a great season, a great year. We could have made it. Next year we'll make it. And the coach tries to give them words of inspiration. But he says at the end, "Charlie, can I just have a word with you for a moment?" Charlie knew he's going to get yelled at. He ruined it for the whole team. He didn't take the shot, and here he goes. As everybody leaves, Charlie puts his head down. The coach speaks to him. The coach says, "You know you ruined the game for all of us, right?" He says, "Yes, I do know." He says, "But that's not what bothers me. Life is not a game, no big deal. We lose a game, we win a game." But he said, "You hurt my feelings." And he's like, "What?" He says, "I'm a coach for 30 years. He says, "You were nervous, you were skeptical about yourself. But by you not believing in me, you took all my 30 years of professional coaching basketball and you threw it out the window. You said, 'I don't trust him.' And you passed the ball to someone else. So next time someone who has so much experience puts you in a situation, if you don't believe in yourself, at least believe in the coach." We have a coach, and his name is Hashem. Sometimes in life we're put into a situation as pressure as that guy Charlie in the game. We're all nervous. What are we doing? This is not for me. I'm not supposed to be here. We try to push it away. But by us pushing it away, we're saying we don't believe in Hashem, God forbid. Hashem is the ultimate coach, and when He puts every single person in a situation, He knows you can handle it. We know that we have a lot of tests nowadays, a lot of trials and tribulations with our children, And sometimes a parent might want to give up and say, this is too hard for me. If Hashem put you on that court, Hashem put you in that situation by saying it's not for me, it's too hard for me. Rule number one, we have to say, He's the ultimate coach. He knows what He's doing. And if He gave me this child and this situation, that means He knows I can do it. That's goal number one that we have to have in mind. How did this event come to be what it is today? This speech, we're all here to learn about this. For the past few months, I've been getting many, many phone calls. Fathers who really don't get involved in their children's everyday actions are calling me up, Rabbi, my son has to play 24/7. They're addicted to this game. They don't want to go to camp. They don't want to go to sleepaway camp. I'm getting phone call after phone call after phone call. A mother with a broken heart tells me my son was doing so much. He was playing ball. He's doing everything. And now he's so addicted to this game. What do I do? So I said, it happens to me. We're having an SBH Chinese auction. How about we get him to be more social? Tell him to come. So I was there by the auction, and as we're speaking, he was so addicted that he pulled out his phone, he puts on an AirPod, and he's playing that game on the phone during the speech. So what is it? What are we supposed to do? So I called our greatest organization ever, Sephardic Bikkur Elite. You can't stop talking how amazing they are. As a matter of fact, as we speak, they're having crisis phone calls, helping everyone. They're always there. They're Hashem's angels, and we're lucky to be a part of this community with SBH in it, doing all their beautiful things. So I called them up. I said, what do we do? Is there any social worker? And they said the idea is to make this event. So Bezrat Hashem, with everyone being here, we'll be able to succeed in what we need. Number one, like we said, we can't get overwhelmed when we think it's too hard. Because if Hashem put us in that situation, that's all we could do. When we do our best, that's all Hashem expects us to do. The Gemara says, whoever lights candles for a mitzvah, the reward will be that they will have children that are Talmidei Chachamim, special children. For example, Shabbat candles. A woman who's diligent with Shabbat candles, she will have children that are special. Chanukah candles. So our rabbis ask, what is the measure for a measure? Somebody lighting candles is going to have children that are Talmidei Chachamim. Isn't there a million more things that we can do to make our children to better children? And the Gemara explains, our rabbis explain, that when you light a candle, there's only so much you can do. You can make sure you get the best wax, the best oil, the best surroundings. There's no wind blowing, there's no window. You can try your best. The actual flame is up to Hashem. So when you try your best, Hashem will do the rest. So that is the measure for a measure. Why lighting candles? You try your best. By everybody being here today is already showing Hashem, I am trying my best, and He will help you out, obviously. Second point that we have to keep in mind is sometimes we think we're talking to the wall. You keep telling the child something, you keep repeating it and repeating it and repeating it, and you think you're going nowhere. As a matter of fact, as I was preparing this class, a mother calls me up in the middle and she says, Rabbi, what do? I call Apple, I got to turn off the game. The kid's making me crazy, and I keep talking and talking to him, and it's going in one ear, out the other. The second I hung up with her, the book I'm reading, the rabbi writes, don't ever think that your words go to waste. Every time you say something, it does not get lost. It does go into their minds, into their hearts. You know, many years ago, my first year in Magen David, I was teaching. It was my first year. I was so excited. I gave them all my insights for that year. The last day of school, they make a celebration, a siyum. They all ran out of the classroom. The classroom was a mess. It looked like a tornado came to the class. I started getting choked up. I said to myself, all my words went to waste. I'm preaching, derech eretz, we have to behave, and this is what happened. Shema, we say the words al lebabecha, on your heart. Technically, the terminology should not be on your heart, it should be in your heart. And these words of Hashem should be in your heart. What's al on top of your heart? The answer is, sometimes we hear things, they don't always go into our heart. But they are on our heart. And they get built up, and one day when that heart opens, everything goes in. So when we do talk to them, never think it goes to waste. Of course, every mother here and every parent listening knows what they're doing. But sometimes we need little reminders. Sometimes we can lose our patience. And instead of just explaining to them, we just say, get over that, stop doing that. A child doesn't want to be told, stop doing something. But if you do say, should we be doing this? You make them accountable in their mind, even though they don't listen, it does go onto their heart. And they will listen one day, even if it's not right now. There's a famous story where somebody came to a rabbi crying. He says, Rabbi, I feel like I'm trying, and I'm getting nowhere. The rabbi tells him, did you ever hear of the bamboo tree? And he says, of course, we know what bamboos are. He says, do you know how long it takes for a bamboo tree to grow? And he said, I don't know. He says it takes 5 years to grow. But he says, do you know that for the first 4.5 years, even more, you don't see anything coming out of the ground? You plant it, you keep watering it for an entire 4 years and 8 months or even more, and you see nothing. And then the last few months, it shoots up to 60 feet or how many feet it goes. What happened over there, the rabbi asked him. He said, how long did it take to grow? He said, 2 months. He said, wrong. If it took 2 months, then all you have to do is water it for 2 months. He says it took 5 years, and every day you have to water. So never ever think your words go to waste. Never think they don't listen. They do listen, and that's something we always have to keep in mind. A third thing we have to keep in mind is we have to know, and obviously everyone here knows, but just to remind, and I'm speaking to myself, of course, that every child is different. If we're coming to a class to say, how do I stop Fortnite? We're just going to press mute and it's all over. Obviously, it's not that easy. But we also have to know there's not one answer. Every child is different. David HaMelech compares teaching children to the hunter with his arrows. And the rabbis ask, what is the connection to a hunter? Sometimes a mother, God forbid, might want to kill a kid. But that's not what David HaMelech means. A hunter always needs a different arrow and a different angle for every single catch that he wants to make. If there's something close by, he has to use one angle. Something further, a different angle. If they had golf in the days of David HaMelech, he would probably compare education to golf clubs. There's different clubs, there's different arrows for as far as we want to go. Every single child is different. I have a friend who's a rabbi that his little son did something. And he went over to the son and he pinched his cheek and he gave him a little hug. And the older brother says, Dad, if I did that as a little kid, you wouldn't kill me. He says, this kid gets a hug and a pinch on his cheek. He says, guess what? Hashem put that second child later on because he knew that that kid needs love, and he made you the older one when I had all my energy and I was a little more strict. He knew to put you here and you there. So we also have to keep in mind that every single child is different, and just like the arrows have to be shot, we have to talk to every child differently. When we do see a child addicted to a certain game, we have to think to ourselves, what is it that's addicting you? Is it just a game? Rumor has it that there are certain games, not to mention any names, they had 700 educators, psychologists, psychiatrists sitting down to make this game addicted. That's a lot of people. Why would they go out of their way to do that? Whatever it is. But what is it that makes it addicting? Maybe there's a child that feels like he's not appreciated in school, by his teachers, his friends. So when he's winning this game, he's like, look at me, I'm doing this, I'm doing great. So now he starts to feel good. So maybe for an example, we look at what the child is good at and we try to implement him doing that, building, playing, music, whatever it might be. But every child is different and every child is trying to fill a void. So you as good parents have to look and see what is it that maybe he might be lacking that we could try to do better in. We can't get rid of technology unless someone wants to move to Amish town. There's no way. It's here. So are we supposed to close ourselves off and just run away from it? The answer is no, and we see it in the Torah. When Moshe Rabbeinu was standing next to the burning bush, Hashem told him, throw your stick on the floor, and it turned into a snake. He tells him, pick up the snake by the tail. And our rabbis ask, it's not a story from the Torah. What lesson is Hashem teaching us with that Moshe picking up the tail of the snake? The answer is the snake represents the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. Hashem is showing him we can't just run away. Sometimes we have to bring him into our lives, obviously very carefully, and not from the head, from the tail, but we have to know how to handle it and use it in our everyday lives. I don't know what's the purpose of technology, what we're supposed to do, and that's why we brought the famous Dr. Eli Shapiro here to teach us these things, how to help us and get tools, how to get through this. But one more point, as we know, the children are everything. As we all know. You know, we know a Jewish person is never allowed to build a statue, no matter what the circumstances are. And yet Hashem says, in the holiest spot on earth, in the Beit HaMikdash, in the Kodesh HaKodashim, that it's so holy, only the Kohen Gadol is allowed to go once a year on the holiest day of the year. That's what a holy spot it is. And what's inside? There's two statues, a boy and a girl. Somebody asks, why are we building statues all of a sudden? Why does God want it there? The answer is, those are the children. To Hashem, the children are the most important thing in the world. And in the pasuk that describes those two angels, those two children, it says their face are facing the home. Why does the Torah have to tell us their face is facing the home? And the answer is, it's the home that the children are living in. And Baruch Hashem, we can truly say that everybody in this room, everybody listening, their homes are beautiful homes. And just keep up the good work. Don't give up. David HaMelech compares the child to olives. And our rabbis ask, what is that? The answer is, in order to get olive oil to make a beautiful light, you have to squeeze the olives. Hashem is telling us, David is telling us, it's not that easy. But when you do work hard, your lives will be lit up. And Bezrat Hashem, all our children together will have good things that light up the world, keep up the great work, and Bezrat Hashem, only Simachot till the coming of Mashiach.
Amen.
That be a feature presentation.
Thank you. I'm going to check the audio before we
Listen up, y'all, no boys and girls.
Perfect. No audio. All right. Thank you, Rabbi Shelby. Thank you, Sergeant Cohen. Thank you all for coming out today. Great turnout. One second. Everybody squeeze that. Very proud. Thank you for coming out. How many of you are addicted to Fortnite? Oh. Okay. Oh, you are?
No, we didn't.
Oh, like one of you are addicted to Fortnite. Do you play Fortnite? No. Okay. So I guess you're here for your kids, or your kids' behalf.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Clarify.
I need to wait till the band is over one more time. I'm going to go for it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you got to finish the level. All right, so what we're going to talk about today is really technology as a whole, how it impacts us, the functioning in our households, specifically social media and gaming, which is really, I think, what is becoming a big challenge for us today, and some strategies that we can utilize to better manage our children's technology at OSCE. So is that what you guys came out for? Is that, yeah? Okay, then we'll do a Q&A as well. So if there are specific issues, we can talk about those. And if you want to speak to me privately, I'll stick around as well. If you don't want to ask, I have a friend, my friend's kid is, yeah. So we'll talk about that as well. So the first thing we need to recognize, and I think that we all do, which is what brings us here, is we are inundated by technology. We have a tremendous amount of it, including our personal devices, the watches, the gaming devices. Social media plays an important role, or a prominent role, in our existence, our kids' existence. And really, the environment that we're living in, we've absorbed it at such a quick rate, we really haven't established the norms of acceptable behavior when it comes to technology. And I think that's really where some of the challenge is. When, say, 20 years ago, when parents were raising their children, the challenges weren't that much different than they were 100 years ago. What's bedtime? What's mealtime? What do those things look like? But something, when the television got introduced, that had an impact, but we actually had a significant amount of time to absorb the television into our daily routine. It took about 15 years for television to reach 50 million users, and it took Fortnite about 3 days to reach 50 million users. So when you think about the amount of time we absorb certain advances in technology compared to what's happening today, it's really qualitatively different than one of the challenges that we have. So just by a raise of hands, how many of you experience what we call phantom vibrations? Phantom vibrations is when your body vibrates but your phone is not with you. Me, the rabbi, and a few of you. Okay, it's an amazing thing. Our bodies have literally been conditioned to anticipate the next buzz. That's how enmeshed we are with technology. You got, yeah, right there. Always. Yeah. So that's a challenge that we have. And the reality is it's about 89% of people report having those phantom vibrations. So when we think about how enmeshed we are with our technology, how our technology influences our lives, even in a physiological sense, our bodies are literally reacting to the technology that we have. So we need to think about those terms. And as far as setting the norms of what is appropriate for digital technology, just by a raise of hands, how many of you think it's appropriate for a speaker that you bring out to go and take a selfie in their presentation? You don't think it's appropriate? See that? So, anyone?
I agree.
You thought it was inappropriate?
Inappropriate.
Okay, so see that? Other people might say, wow, very cool. My daughter, but anyway, I don't know. But that idea of establishing what the norms are is a challenge we have as well. What is the right amount of time to let our children play video games? Should we even let them play video games? Should they have devices? Should they be on social media? These are questions that we have difficulty answering, and what those norms are as well. I was at a wedding recently where the brother of the bride was walking down the aisle, okay? So it's like a serious moment, someone's getting married. The brother's walking down the aisle, and he sort of stops over here, pulls out a selfie stick, and snaps a picture at the proposal. So you all look pretty horrified. Usually there's one or two people that like a light goes on and says, oh, I should do that at my next info. But you guys pretty consistently feel you have strong opinions about this. I'm sensing that. So the reality is that those norms are not appropriate. A friend of mine was at a wedding recently, and he decided to take a selfie as the Chesed in Colorado walked down. I mean, this is what he did. I don't know if I captured a moment. I don't know if it was the moment that everybody was going for. But these are the challenges that we face today. What are the norms? What is appropriate? What is responsible? And so that's what we're here to talk about in a general sense about technology, and more specifically with social media and specifically gaming. So what are the norms of appropriate, responsible behavior when it comes to technology? And as the rabbi pointed out, there's no one right answer. There's no one strategy. And a lot of times people are looking for a magic pill. I call it the magic pill. The magic pill is, this is the age to get them a device, or never let them play video games, or I'm never going to let them have social media, or I'm going to take their phone and throw it in the river, or whatever it might be, right? So these one-shot strategies are generally not successful, both in the near term and in the long term. And so what we need to do is we need to think in a more complex way, a more sophisticated way, how we are going to help our children grow up in this age of technology. And that's really the challenge that brings us together today. So I like to say that we're living in the best of times and the worst of times. There was a writer, Charles Dickens, who wrote, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times, it was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. And I think if we ever lived in an era that we could define as the age of wisdom and the age of foolishness, now is it. We have such tremendous opportunity when it comes to technology. It brings us so much. It brings us access to information. It gives us tremendous productivity. Information is available. There is no excuse not to know something. We just have to be good consumers of information, right? So we have information, we have productivity, we have connectivity. We can FaceTime with friends and family around the globe. It's an amazing thing that we have. Technology is wonderful. Our children are growing up in this environment, and we need to give them the opportunity, the access, and the tools to maximize what technology has to offer. But part of it is the challenges. It's the best times, the worst of times, and it's the age of foolishness. So where are we seeing some of the challenges when it comes to technology? We see social, behavioral, psychological, and day-to-day impact. Social, behavioral, psychological, and day-to-day. These are 4 core areas that we see kids having a negative impact. And so in order for us to find the benefits that technology has to offer, we also need to understand the challenges that it presents. And the challenges that it presents is a little more complex than, I think intuitively we all know, like our kids are spending too much time on their devices, and we know that. But what is the real impact? What is it doing to them socially, psychologically, behaviorally, developmentally? You know, there was a study that found kids today are inhaling 30% less oxygen than they were 20 years ago. Inhaling 30% less oxygen. So you might say that it's more sedentary in nature, they're not running around, they're not playing. But if you think about it, when you're on a device, right, you tilt your head back and take a nice deep breath, right? Go, right, get a nice full breath. Now try it as if you're on a device and try taking that deep breath. The airway is closed, so you're bringing in less oxygen. Now, there are no longitudinal studies. One of the challenges that technology presents, because it moves so fast, we don't have longitudinal studies on how it impacts over time. But I would venture to say, and you can join me in this or not, that more oxygen is better than less oxygen when it comes to development. You want to join me on that concept? Okay. The next thing we'll see is kids with like oxygen masks like on their devices. But that's the idea. Kids are spending a tremendous amount of time playing games, 7.5 hours. Daily screen time is average 11 hours with multiple devices. That's when you're sitting with one device in front of another device, which is something that we see kids doing as well. But the reality is that we love technology. Our kids love technology. Technology is awesome. It gives us, like we said, the accessibility, productivity, information, connectivity. But it does present a challenge as well. The UN actually did a study a few years back. If you believe the UN, I will just tell you that caveat. 6 out of the world's 7 billion people own a mobile phone, but only 4.5 million have a toilet. Think about that.
That's crazy.
6, right? Have 7 million. So now I've gotten pushback from some of my audiences where they say, well, what do you do on a toilet if you don't have a mobile phone? Fair point. The other argument that I've gotten is you can share a toilet, but you can't share a phone. So those are 2 points that have been made, which I appreciate the sentiments behind it. We also have what we call a generational disconnect. You ever get the feeling your kids know more about technology than you do? Yes. So right, when you need to know how to do something, you pull your 6-year-old over to explain. So we have a generational disconnect. Generational disconnect. I showed this. It's funny. We call it digital immigrants and digital natives. All of us here are digital immigrants, and our children pretty much are digital natives. And so we have this discrepancy. I like this text between a mother and child. Your great aunt just passed away, LOL. Why is that funny, David? Well, it's not funny, David. What do you mean? LOL means laughing out loud. Oh my goodness, I sent that to everyone. I thought it meant lots of love.
Oh my God.
So you have that, that we giggle, but we've all been there where we didn't quite get the lingo, we didn't quite understand. everybody knows what FOMO is? Okay, this is a bilingual group. Excellent. So you speak a little digital. But our kids do not know what this is. And they definitely do not know the relationship between these two items. I was actually in an office environment recently, and the millennials, the younger people working here, they're 20, didn't know the relationship either. Some of the older people had to explain. So these are the generational challenges we face. Social media. Everybody knows what these three logos are? Snapchat, Instagram, WhatsApp. It's the top 3 apps utilized by kids today, but not all apps are free. Snapchat, Instagram, and WhatsApp. Snapchat, WhatsApp, and Instagram. Those are the top 3 apps. And so these are what kids are communicating on, but they are very qualitatively different. They're very different apps which are appropriate for some and not appropriate for others. 84% of kids are active users of social media. Just so you know, any of the statistics that I don't cite a different source, I've studied across the United States, collected over 3,000 student surveys, parent surveys, as well in New York, New Jersey, Chicago, Minneapolis, LA, Miami, Cleveland, I think some other communities somewhere mixed in. And the data that we've collected for our Jewish day school and yeshiva students and their technology habits, ownership rates, habits, attitudes, etc. So 84% of kids that we surveyed are active users of social media. And when it comes to gaming, these are the top 3 platforms. We have the PlayStation, the Wii, and the Xbox. Some of you have all 3 of them. You've hit the trifecta, as well as the personal devices. And 75% of the kids that we've surveyed are active users of digital gaming. So I don't think you needed my big study to tell you that kids like social media and kids like gaming. They are actually engaged in it, and the goal today is to figure out how to better manage that. They told me that the Wi-Fi was out, so I'm going to log in the old-fashioned way. So I love that video because it gives me a chance to actually make a coffee, but I just get a water. It's nostalgic, right? It has like remember the 90s when we had a log on? That was actually, AOL was the first company that gave us unlimited internet access for a small monthly fee. So that's really, when we think about it, the degree to which we are engaged with technology has happened so quickly, it's just remarkable, and our adapting to it is really one of the big challenges that we face. All right, so let's focus on 4 key areas that are impacted. The best of times, worst of times, age of wisdom, age of foolishness, the impacted domains we mentioned, behavioral, social, psychological, and day-to-day. In the behavioral realm, we see a high degree of dependence. Our kids, they get the devices, they're on the devices, they're dependent on the devices. It's the first thing they want to look at when they wake up. It's the last thing they want to look at when they go to sleep. It's as soon as they come home from school, they want their devices, and they are hooked on their devices. So that's dependence, that distraction. Their focus. You know, it's an interesting study that was done where they measured kids' ability to take standardized tests with a cell phone on the desk and in the bag, right? And they compared results. Now, they weren't allowed to touch the phone. Just the mere presence of the phone actually served to impact their cognitive functioning negatively. They were not able to perform as well just by the phone being there. And although it is true with children, it's true with adults as well. When our phone is there, it's a distraction, and we do not function as well. We are not firing on all cylinders. And so that's something we need to keep in mind, because parental modeling is actually a key in helping our children develop healthy digital habits. So where our phone is, what we do on our phone impacts as well. So dependence, distraction, impulsivity, we're more likely to put things out through a digital medium than we would in a, in the old days when I would get angry at someone, my parents would say, okay, you have to write a letter and put it in an envelope leave it on your desk, and by the time you're ready to send it, usually the issue is resolved itself. But today, when we're angry, when we're upset, we tweet, we text, we comment, we blog, or whatever it is we do. There's that impulsivity, right, that technology promotes. Disinhibition. I'm more likely to do or say something through an online medium than I am in a face-to-face conversation. When our kids are playing video games, whether it's Xbox Live or whether they're playing Fortnite, whatever the game is, if they're interacting with other people, their behavior will change as a result of it being through a digital medium. They'll use language that they wouldn't normally use. They'll be more, they'll communicate a higher degree of aggression through a digital medium than they would in a face-to-face conversation. So understanding the role that disinhibition and impulsivity play on our children. Sleep, by the way, behaviorally. Most kids, there's about 83% or so, sleep with their devices within a reach, right? So what does that mean for sleep? Our kids are on their devices till late at night. I think it was like 20% actually sleep with their devices under their pillow. I don't know what the exchange rate is with the tooth fairy for a tooth versus a device, but they sleep with their devices in reach, so they're not getting the quality sleep. I actually had a parent call me up, so they found out that their child would set an alarm for 1 in the morning to wake up, to play video games, and then go back to sleep. Okay? So when you talk about dependence and how it impacts sleep, sleep, by the way, is the #1 predictor for children to succeed academically and socially in school, to achieve their abilities. For them to maximize their abilities, the quality of their sleep directly impacts that. Anyone who's a teacher in this room can tell you right away when a student comes in and didn't get a good night's sleep, you can see it right away. And kids actually report in the high 80s, kids report that they stay up late as a result of their technology. So one thing that we can do off the bat is make sure they don't have devices in their room at night. So one practical solution. Now, I know many of you are saying, you're going to all answer this at once. I'm just pointing to you. Your child says, I have to have my device in my room. Why do they say it? Why? Tell me.
My calculator.
Say it together. Same answer. Alarm clock, right? All your kids got together. They had a congress and they discussed and said, okay, we're going to give the alarm clock excuse. Obviously, they want us to wake up for school, so we'll tell them the alarm clock thing. They have amazing savings here. They have that. So they sell these like little clocks with big red numbers, and I think it has an alarm clock feature, and that will solve that problem. But one of the greatest gifts we can give our kids is a good night's sleep. So whether it's social media, whether it's gaming, or whether it's anything else, the YouTube rabbit hole that you end up going down, right? You'll start lead paint poisoning. You want to learn about lead paint poisoning, right? And then you'll get to Led Zeppelin. And then you'll go Zeppelin, the history of aviation, right? The old Zeppelin. And then, you'll find out about hydrogen. And then you'll find out about paint. And then how long does it take to paint dry in humid weather? And then you're literally on YouTube 4 hours later watching paint dry. Literally. I mean, we get into that routine. And so if our kids have devices next to their bed, this is what happens when they get stuck in that routine. 80% of students sleep with their cell phone or devices within reach. We mentioned that. Artificial lights from the devices make it hard to sleep and stay asleep. Is that interesting? Harvard did a study. They compared reading a book at bedtime and reading an e-reader at bedtime. We all know what happens when you read a book at bedtime. Fall right asleep. You don't need melatonin. You don't need Ambien. You just read a book. I actually have a book on my bed, on my dresser next to my bed. I've been reading it for 8 years. It's actually a pamphlet, but I'm still on page 3. And every time I pick it up, I fall asleep. What they found was that with the e-reader, it actually had that impact where it made it more difficult to fall asleep and stay asleep. So, taking the devices out of your kid's room, #1. #2, setting times, whether it's a half hour or 45 minutes before bedtime, no electronic devices. You can set that limit as well. So these are 2 basic strategies we can off the bat. 86% of students report going to bed late as a result of their technology, and we know the importance of sleep, so we have to help our kids get a good night's sleep. I keep this picture in here. It's the baseball player, with a cell phone in his hand, and it reminds me to tell you the story about the meeting that I had with the New York Mets about 2 years ago. And I really like to tell this story because anytime I have an audience and I can say I had a meeting with the New York Mets, I will do so. So you are the beneficiaries of that today. And I had a meeting with the New York Mets, and they were telling me about one of their players who was taking frequent bathroom breaks during the game. He's a professional baseball player, and he's taking frequent bathroom breaks. And they actually had a medical concern. Any Met fans here? There never are. I think 2 of you. Okay. Anyway, so he's taking frequent bathroom breaks during the game. As it turns out, he was updating his Instagram feed. So when you think about that, imagine in New York where you work, if 45,000 people come to watch, well, it's the Mets, so about 15,000 people come to watch you work. And then even in that, you have to go to the bathroom to update your Instagram. It's very middle school-esque, right? Going to the bathroom. So these are the challenges that not only kids are facing, but adults, young adults, 20s are facing as well. Social challenges that we face, we're all concerned about our kids' social experiences, connecting with other children, getting out there. We see social distraction, dependence, online aggression, cyberbullying is an emerging issue that we see happen more and more frequently, miscommunication, where we're communicating information but it's being misinterpreted. We see scenes like this all the time. I actually call this a regression to a parallel play. Preschoolers, this is what they do. They play next to each other but not with each other. And so this sort of interaction we see more frequently. And we want to encourage our kids to make more meaningful human connections. UCLA did a very interesting study back in 2014 where they measured kids' ability to read social cues and facial expressions. And then they sent them to the sleepaway camp without any technology. And then they measured them again. And what they found was that in only 5 days, their ability to read facial expressions, social cues, and form meaningful connections vastly improved. So what that's teaching us is that digital technology is having a negative impact on our social connectivity, but it's also repairable. And we all know, when is it that we connect best with our families? Shabbat, right? Shabbat, like you can't qualitatively, you can't compare it. It's just a totally different experience. And so that idea of bringing more of that into our overall experience becomes more and more important if we want to maintain and establish quality social connections. Our kids will say, I have 8,000 Facebook friends, I don't use Facebook, but Snapchat, I have followers, and Instagram, but that is not quality. It's quantity, but it is not quality. We want to help them focus on developing and appreciating more quality relationships. Miscommunication in the digital realm, social media and gaming and in texting, etc. Most communication is paraverbal in nature. So a word like this, I'm not going to say the word, but each one of you have it in your mind, you're hearing it differently, right? It could be, whatever. It could be whatever, right? Each one is different. 80% of communication is paraverbal. It's the tone, it's the volume, it's the intonation, it's the body language. All these things contribute to meaningful communications, and the digital realm creates a challenge. And as a result of that, we hear from our kids about people being mean and cruel online. That is cyberbullying. A lot of it results from miscommunication. 45%. I've seen numbers as high as 45%. 45 is above average, but I've seen in groups as high as 45% of kids reporting being the victim of mean or cruel behavior. And so that's a challenge that we have as parents as well. So we talked about behavioral, we talked about social. Psychological is actually one of my favorite areas in that impact. We see a strong connection between technology engagement, anxiety, depression, isolation, addiction. When our kids are in school and thinking about Fortnite or whatever game it is, and they're worried about it, and they're being disconnected, is creating a sense of anxiety for them, that is a direct relationship that has unhealthy consequences as a result. Depression, and I'm not talking about having an anxiety disorder or major depression, not necessarily diagnosable, but our own experiences, our own well-being, our emotional well-being, are compromised when we are overly engaged in technology. And it's important to use the word overly engaged because balance is really the key. Remember, best of times, worst of times, age of wisdom, age of foolishness. So anxiety, depression, isolation, addiction. Then this addiction term is actually something that I find very interesting. We use the term addicted to Fortnite, addicted to gaming, addicted to social media, addicted to our devices. as of yet, the mental health community has not actually come up with a diagnosis of technology addiction. I think it will happen in the very near future, but it has not happened yet. The World Health Organization recently, about a month or two ago, came up with a general diagnosis of technology addiction. But how do we define that addiction? What makes something an addiction versus an intrusion? And it's really critical to be able to identify that difference. Because when something's an intrusion, there's one approach. When something's an addiction, there's another approach. In the vast majority of cases that I've spoken to with parents, it's not something that I would refer to as an addiction. It would be varying degrees of intrusion of the way they engage with technology. So what we need to think about is addiction, as it stems from the substance abuse community, is when the item interferes with primary role obligation. Okay? Interferes with primary role obligation. So what is the primary role obligation? It means that if I don't go to work because I'm drinking, or I don't pay my bills because I'm drinking, or I'm drugging, or whatever it is, that's interfering with primary role obligation. We might use the term addiction. If I am gaming and I'm skipping work because I'm gaming, which 20% of adults have done with Fortnite, if I'm skipping work or I'm refusing to go to school because of Fortnite, that's a more significant problem than a child that really likes playing Fortnite as opposed to going out and playing baseball. So we have to understand that balance, and the approach is going to be very different by understanding that balance as well. Kids say that their cell phones are really important. What we actually have seen in the research is the more importance kids place on their devices, the more likely there is to be a problem with anxiety and depression when it comes to technology. So understanding your child's relationship. The rabbi made a wonderful point about different approaches for different children. Some of your children are going to be there's going to be a lower prevalence of them developing an unhealthy relationship with technology, and therefore the rules and the approach might be different than another one of your children that is more likely to develop an unhealthy relationship with technology. So looking at each child individually, understanding their personal proclivities and their interests and their style, and they're looking at that and their relationship with technology, the rules might adjust and adapt accordingly. My oldest child, she got her smartphone at 15, a few years back, and then my second oldest child got her smartphone at 14. Now you can imagine the drama that occurred when my 15-year-old, who was 17 at the time, found out that her younger sister didn't have to wait till 15 to get the phone. She got it at 14. The fury and the anger that I faced was quite remarkable. But the rules are different because the needs are different and the times are different from one year to the next. And really looking at how we approach our children's technology habits in a thoughtful and deliberative way. Thoughtful and deliberative. Those are two words I use very frequently. Thoughtful and deliberative. Because the approach on how we engage our children with technology, what we give them access to, how much time we give them, what the rules and guidelines are, need to be thoughtful and deliberative. Okay? And so that's what we want to think about. Every child's going to be different. It could be the age, and the rules that applied, by the way, 5 years ago might be different today, and the rules that are going to be in 2 years are going to be different as well. So if you want to bring me back in 2 years, I'm happy to come back. Just a reminder about the Mets, in case you forgot. Just wanted to share that. Everybody know what this is? The hashtag. Very good. You know what a hashtag does? So a hashtag is basically just a fancy way of filing something on the internet, right? So if I want to look up, let's say you want to go to Twitter, and I want to look up the best lecturer ever, right? So you'd type in hashtag best lecturer ever. You've probably seen me, probably. It's actually trending now, so if you want to do that, it's at Dr. Ellie Shapiro, hashtag best lecturer ever. Feel free to do that, and you can help me out as well. But that's what it's a fancy file. So you want to find the best salad ever, the best restaurant ever, worst ever, whatever it might be. So that's what the hashtag does. It helps you file and find things. So they did a study on positive and negative hashtags. So what do you think there was more, positive or negative?
Negative.
Negative. It's a very negative group. So that is correct. They actually did a study, and they found that for every positive hashtag, there were 2 negative. So what does that mean? Our base inclinations are to post negative, right? What happens when Delta gets into your destination on time and your luggage is right there waiting for you, right? Are you going to go and tweet, great job, Delta, fantastic, hashtag, best airline ever, right? No, but if you get in 6 hours late and your luggage is in Hawaii and you're in Florida, you are going to tweet, and so we are more likely to post negative. When you order from Amazon, right? Everybody uses Amazon? Right.
Yeah.
So when you order from Amazon, if they get it to you on time, they are going to hound you for a positive review. They are like, just fill out the survey, tell us how awesome we are, because they know that you're more likely, there's a bias towards the negativity. So if they want to keep their reviews up, they really have to go after you to do the positive. Now what's really interesting is, there was a study done by Peterson and Seligman, 2 psychologists, the founders of positive psychology, called the Positive Journaling Study. In the Positive Journaling Study, they asked people at the end of the day to write down 5 things that they were grateful for. 5 things that they were grateful for. And what they found was that this group had much higher levels of subjective well-being, which was just general satisfaction and happiness, just by writing down 5 things every day that they were grateful for. What happens is, when you write down positive things, it changes your schema. You look at things in a more positive way. The flip side, though, is when you write down negative things, you basically make yourself miserable. And we're just more likely to do in the digital realm, we're more likely to post negative if we're not focused on it, if we're not being thoughtful and deliberative with our technology habits. Our kids are growing up in this tech-drenched world, and whether they're on social media yet or not on social media yet, I can't reinforce enough the importance of helping them develop healthy, positive attitudes and behaviors when it comes to technology. 85% of kids use technology longer than they intended. Now, this statistic is really interesting because the kids are the ones reporting. This isn't the parents saying my kids use it. That you'd have like 99%. But 85% of kids are saying, I spend more time on my technology than I initially intended. And what that tells us is, it doesn't feel good when you're out of control. It doesn't feel good when when your child's been in front of the screen for too long, you know what their mood is like. Their mood is significantly impacted by the screen. Usually it wears off after a while. That glassy-eyed look ends up coming back into focus at some point. But overall, the idea of being in front of a screen, being on it longer than you anticipated, in the dark basement with no other light around, they come out, right, and you barely recognize them, and they look definitely eaten, so that idea, the kids are self-aware. So when we talk about the gifts we can give them, one of the gifts we said was giving them a good night's sleep. The other gift we can give them is helping them set limits. Helping them set limits on their technology is not because it's funny, parents, your kids aren't going to say, okay, I'm giving you a half hour to play Fortnite or whatever it is. They're not going to say, thank you so much for setting limits for me. Oh my gosh, I was out of control, and now you really got me back in line. They're not going to say that. They're going to give you an argument. But if you're consistent and you stay the course, they will benefit from it, even if they don't recognize it. It will be Oliver and hopefully one day again. The day-to-day impact that we see, schoolwork is impacted by personal technology, exposure to content that we don't want them exposed to. Their physical health, we mentioned the 30%. Obesity is on the rise in general. I don't know that there's a direct connection between the two, but certainly, our overall health sitting in front of screens. I would venture to say that gaming is probably better than television in that sense. When you're watching television, you're eating and whatnot. When you're gaming, your hands are occupied. So that's a good thing. Criminal charges, college, employment, all these things are impacted by our relationship with technology. A recent study found that 35% of kids have skipped class to play Fortnite. Just to give you some background about Fortnite, Fortnite is a multi-platform game, which is unique. I'm not sure if it's the first one, but it's definitely one of the first. Multi-platform means, it used to be, if you were to play, let's say a game like What? So let's just say, I'm not familiar with it, like Call of Duty, or let's say Warcraft, I assume it's the same concept. You can play it on your device, right? Or you can play it with other people on the same device. So if you have an Xbox and you're on Xbox Live, and someone else is playing on Xbox Live, you can play the game together. Fortnite's unique because you can be on Xbox, you can be on Wii, you can be on iOS, you can be on Android, and we can still all play the game together. And I think that's one of the, when you think from a social standpoint, it's not necessarily, a bad thing from a productivity. The idea of bringing, it used to be that you'd play games with the people that you had the same console as. But today, anybody can play, anybody can log in, etc. And so it's creating a much larger community. Fortnite has about 3 million people playing at any given time. So if any of you are logged on now, it might be 3 million and one. And the amount of revenue that they're generating from the game is immense. They're making about $300 million a month from the game. And the game's it's less than a year old. They're making about $300 million a month. So there's something about this game in particular that it presents a challenge, but let's not forget, it wasn't so long ago that we were all hooked on Candy Crush, right? Someone's got to crush the candy, and we get hooked on these games, and they're designed to be that way. Someone had mentioned, I'm in the middle of a level. That always happens, right? Your kids are like, what usually happens is, our kids, they want to play a game, they say, okay, we can play the game, and then we forgot about it, right, because it's quiet. We forgot that they're playing the game, and like 2 hours later, we realize, right, that they've been in the basement playing the game, and we panic, right? Like, oh my God, what kind of parent am I? I'm letting them play. And then you come down like all in a panic, you're like, get off the, right? And then they respond to that. That's usually the dynamic that occurs. What I recommend is, and I do it myself as well, my kids do play video games also. They're into Minecraft. You have Minecraft? I don't understand Minecraft because all these years we were trying to get things crystal clear 4K, and they create this game that's just like, when I take my glasses off, that's what it looks like. They're into Minecraft. So then I realized if I didn't set the limit, and setting the limits are key, but it happens, you forget. And then I realized I've been on too long. Then I say 10 more minutes. That's the move. That's the good parenting move. Because when you come down in a panic, they respond in a panic, and then the drama ensues. So you'll say 10 more minutes. What'll they say? I'm in the middle of the level, but okay, you have 10 minutes to either finish the level. If it takes 5 minutes, great. You have 10 minutes to finish the level, and then save it, and then we're done. But that needs to be the response. Digital footprints are what the residue you leave behind in the online realm. So it's more related to social media and email and posts, etc. It's when someone looks into you, what they see online, but gaming as well. If you are communicating, and again, the impulsivity, the disinhibition, leave a permanent record, leave information about you to other people, and it shapes opinions about what people think about you. And why is that important? How people think about you, people utilize social media in other areas to determine your eligibility for employment, or college, or scholarships. Last June, Harvard University rescinded 10 acceptance letters of students because of offensive remarks they made in a private Facebook group. When you think about that, I wrote an article a couple of years ago that your digital footprint is actually more important than your academic success. Because you can be a straight A student, get into Harvard, and then throw it all away with one bad tweet, post, etc. A friend of mine had a meeting in Sacramento this past week with a big, important person in the banking industry. And this person in the banking industry was complaining about bed bugs at this Marriott hotel he was staying at. And 3-4 times he posted, he was angry at Marriott. And so now this becomes part of his digital footprint. It's how people see this person. And so what was interesting was, even before this meeting ended up starting, people had already seen this is the kind of guy he is, and that shaped their opinion of him, but also no one wanted to sit next to him. So it shaped that. And everything we do online is traceable, and sometimes kids think that it's private, it's anonymous. Every device has a MAC ID, every network has an IP address, and all that is traced back to someone in your household. So for example, if you did a quick search on a pair of shoes that you were interested in, then all of a sudden your social media and your email and everything, those pair of shoes are popping up. Because they do track you and they do data mine, because they will say they want to give you customized shopping experiences, but the reality is they're just trying to sell you product. We have issues with clickbait, things like this. You're not going to believe what happened when this girl drank a Coke, right? It encourages you to click further. Is it something you want me to click that? You're wondering what happened? Interestingly enough, I've been getting a lot. You're not going to believe what your dentist is telling you. Any dentists in here? I've been trying to. You're a dentist, ma'am? What are you not trying to tell me?
She's a hygienist.
Oh, are the dentists hiding something from us?
Why?
Okay. So let's just look at some of the data also that we've collected. Jewish Day schools, 62% of parents report having set rules in the house, which is very nice, 62%. Problem is only 32% of kids report that there are set rules in the house. 82% of parents report having conversations with their children about using the internet responsibly, which is great. Except the kids say, 27% of them say my parents have had conversations with me, etc. And so we see that disconnect between what parents are saying and what kids are saying. Now, I assume that when parents fill out surveys, they're being honest. So what I think is happening is there is a disconnect between when the parents say something and what they're saying and what the children are hearing, right? So there's a communication breakdown. So I actually always thought that if this whole public speaking thing didn't work out, I would become a mentalist. You ever have those mentalists come out to your community? They look at you and know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
You ever think you want to go home already? Is that no? See, I'm not even a good mentalist. Anyway, if you'll indulge me, whenever I have a group together, I try to figure this out. So I'm going to ask you a question, and you are all going to respond at the same time when I do this, right? Like when I asked you before, why do your kids leave their devices in their room? That's everybody.
Oh.
Why do your kids leave devices in the room?
Wow.
Okay, so now we're going to try this with some other information. We'll see if I can get this right. All right, let's just do a test run. What's 1 plus 1?
2.
Can I get a round of applause? You're not impressed. Okay. Let's try another one. Your child comes home from school, and you say, how was your day? Let's try this together. How was your day?
Good.
Can I get a round of applause? Like we were talking about golf before. It's like, oh, okay. What's going to happen next? Okay. So, your child comes home from school, how's your day? Those of you that are good parents will follow up with, what did you do today?
Nothing.
Well, that gets a real round of applause, right? So what's really interesting is that this is the kind of conversation and dialogue that we have with our kids every day. How's your day? Fine. What did you do today? Nothing. Mom, where's the iPad? All right? That's usually how the conversation goes. And so we're engaged in this disingenuous dialogue. They know what we're going to ask. We know what they're going to answer. And everyone's just going through the motions so we can get to the video games. Right? That's like how it plays out. And so that's why I believe that we have a discrepancy between what the parents think as far as rules and guidelines of communication and what the kids are saying. Because we think, as parents, that if we say get off the computer already, we have communicated our expectations about internet responsibility. When we say, better go outside and play, or I'm going to, unplug, throw the Wii out, we think we have set rules and guidelines. But the kids aren't hearing it that way. They're hearing about like authoritarian parents setting limits and being mean and cool. So the question really is, what can we do? All right? This is what we all came for. Like, well, now I understand technology is impacting us socially, psychologically.